She stood alone in that courtroom, facing the man who destroyed her and the lawyers who cost more than she'd earn in a lifetime, until the attorney in the borrowed suit stood up, and he realized it was a kid he never thought would fight back. Let me take you back to where this nightmare began. My mom, Sarah, wasn't some naive woman. She was a nurse who worked double shifts, paid every bill on time, and built a decent life for us from absolutely nothing. But when she met Richard Calloway, something in her changed. He was charming, successful, a real estate developer who drove Mercedes and knew exactly what to say to make a single mom feel like she'd finally found her person. Within 8 months, they were married. Within 2 years, he had control of everything. See, Richard was a different kind of monster. He didn't hit. He didn't yell. He isolated. He manipulated. He convinced my mom to quit her job, said she deserved to be taken care of. He moved us to a house 2 hours away from everyone we knew. And slowly, like poison spreading through water, he made her doubt every single decision she made. I was 16 when I realized what was happening. My mom had become a ghost. This strong woman who used to stand up to hospital administrators was now asking permission to buy groceries. And Richard, he smiled through every second of it. I promised myself something that year. I would get us out, no matter what it took. Fast forward 7 years. I'm 23, fresh out of law school, passed the bar on my first try. And my mom finally found the courage to leave him. But Richard Calloway wasn't about to let that happen quietly. The divorce papers were filed on a Tuesday morning. By Thursday afternoon, Richard had assembled a legal team that cost more per hour than most people make in a week. His strategy was simple and brutal: destroy her completely. He claimed the house was his separate property. He said my mom had contributed nothing to the marriage. He brought receipts, documents, witnesses who testified that she was unstable, irresponsible, possibly addicted to prescription medication. All lies, but lies told by people in expensive suits. His lead attorney was Marcus Hendricks. If you've ever seen a shark in human form, that was him. 30 years of experience. A reputation for winning at any cost. He'd made a career out of crushing people in family court. My mom couldn't afford representation. Every attorney she called wanted a $50,000 retainer she didn't have. Legal aid had a 6-month waiting list. She was drowning, and Richard knew it. I watched her sit at our tiny kitchen table, surrounded by papers she couldn't understand, cry in a way that broke something fundamental inside me. That's when I made the decision. "Mom," I said, "I'm going to represent you." She looked at me like I'd lost my mind. "Honey, you just graduated. Richard has the best attorneys money can buy. This isn't some small case. I know exactly what this is," I told her, "and I know what he's doing. He thinks he's already won. That's going to be his biggest mistake." The preliminary hearing was set for 3 weeks later. I spent every single hour preparing. I went through 7 years of bank statements, credit card receipts, emails, text messages. I interviewed neighbors, old coworkers, people from my mom's church. I built a timeline of financial control, emotional abuse, and systematic isolation that was so detailed it could have been a criminal investigation. But I knew the facts alone wouldn't be enough. I needed to get inside Richard's head, inside Hendrick's strategy. The morning of the hearing, I walked into that courtroom in a suit I'd borrowed, carrying a briefcase that cost $30, looking like exactly what I was, a brand new attorney going up against a legal machine. Richard was sitting at the defense table in a $2,000 suit, whispering to Hendricks. When he saw me walk in as my mom's attorney, he actually laughed. Not a small chuckle, a full, condescending laugh that echoed through the courtroom. Hendricks looked at me with something between pity and amusement. "Your counsel is your daughter?" he said to my mom, loud enough for the judge to hear. "Mrs. Calloway." Perhaps we should continue this so you can secure proper representation. The judge looked at me. Counselor, are you prepared to proceed? Every eye in that room was on me. This was the moment Richard thought he'd already won. I looked directly at him and said, more prepared than he's ready for, Your Honor. Hendricks opened with his strategy. Pay my mom as a freeloader who contributed nothing and now wanted half of everything. He was smooth, confident, overwhelming. Then it was my turn. Your Honor, I'd like to submit into evidence the following documents. I placed before the court 7 years of financial records. These show that while Mrs. Calloway was allegedly contributing nothing, her husband systematically liquidated her personal savings, closed her credit cards, and redirected her disability payments from a car accident into accounts she couldn't access. Hendricks objected. I was ready. I'd also like to call to the stand Dr. Rebecca Morrison, who will testify that Mrs. Calloway showed classic signs of financial abuse and coercive control during marriage counseling sessions that Mr. Calloway insisted on, but only attended twice. Richard's face changed. The confidence cracked just slightly. But I wasn't done. And finally, I have text messages between Mr. Calloway and his business partner discussing how to make sure she gets nothing and let her crawl back when she's desperate enough. Sent 2 days before Mrs. Calloway even filed for divorce. The courtroom went silent. Hendricks stood up. Your Honor, the authenticity of these messages was verified by a forensic digital analyst. I interrupted. Report attached, tab 7. For the next 2 hours, I dismantled every single argument they made. Every lie, every manipulation, every twisted version of reality Richard had constructed. I didn't just offend my mom. I prosecuted him. The judge called a recess. When we returned, her face had changed. She'd seen what I'd seen, what everyone in that room now saw. Richard Calloway wasn't a successful businessman protecting his assets. He was an abuser trying to finish what he started. The ruling came down 3 weeks later. My mom got the house. She got half of all marital assets. She got alimony. And most importantly, she got a restraining order that would keep Richard Calloway away from her for the rest of her life. But here's the thing that still gives me chills. After the final hearing, as we were packing up, Richard walked past us. He stopped, looked at me with pure hatred in his eyes, and whispered, "You have no idea what you've done." I stepped closer to him, close enough that only he could hear me, and said, "I know exactly what I did. I beat you, and you'll spend the rest of your life knowing you were destroyed by a 23-year-old in a borrowed suit. Sleep well, Richard." His hands were shaking. That was 2 years ago. My mom lives in that house now. She went back to nursing. She volunteers at a domestic violence shelter. She's alive again in a way I hadn't seen since before Richard. And me? I started a practice specializing in representing abuse survivors in family court, pro bono for those who can't afford it. Because I learned something in that courtroom that changed my entire life. Sometimes the person who loves you most becomes a warrior you need most. And the predators who think they've already won, they never see that warrior coming. My name is Jordan Calloway, and this is how I saved my mom's life by becoming her attorney. Drop a comment if you believe justice isn't about how much money you have. It's about how hard you're willing to fight.